Right
All right.
on. Let's go.
All right. So we've got this is the QR code, another episode. We've got 12 games under our belt. I'm Razor.
I'm Q.
That's right. And we're sitting at 10 and 2, surprisingly enough. Again, two games we won two games more than I predicted at the beginning of the season. We're still on pace to hit the number that Q predicted. And this week we have one of our, which should be a marquee game, but apparently the NFL didn't think enough of it to put it in prime time. They're going to make it a regular 12 noon Minnesota time game when we get to face the
Mm,
man. Yeah, and we
mm.
know who we're talking about.
No,
That's
I
right.
have no
That's right.
idea. No.
That's right.
No.
That
And
that's right.
but wait. So Razor, you brought something to my attention just the other day that of all that we've been talking about Kirk Cousins and for all the so-called Cousins crusaders that are, oh, Kirk is so awesome. Well, right now he's sitting at six
Six and
and five, right?
six and six. Six and
Six and
six.
six.
They're
Okay.
they're 500. Shock.
Which Kirk Cousins for his life is a 500 quarterback.
Yeah, that one outlier year that everybody lost their minds when we went 13 and 4, was it?
Three.
13 and 3, I'm sorry. And were we only playing 16 games back then? Okay. So I thought it was 13 and 4, but he won 13 games and everybody says, "Oh, look at this, look at the." He is, as it has been said, a gravitational pull to 500 on three different teams. Now, this man has shown that he is a 500 quarterback, and you are what your record says you are. I
Which
mean,
is probably why he wasn't drafted in the first round anyway. Like
or the
when you
second
look back,
round, or the second round, or the second
in
round.
the third.
It's amazing how people let their admiration for somebody or for a quarterback cloud their judgment. They could care less what the performance is. Look at the numbers, look at the passing yards, look at the passing yards. You know who has a lot of passing yards? Quarterbacks who are trailing in a lot of games have a lot of passing yards.
Mm,
You know who has a lot of come from behind victories? Quarterbacks who are trailing in a lot of games have a lot of come from behind victories. I don't care about how
that's
many comebacks you have. I don't care about how many yards you throw for. What's the W's? What are the W's?
stats don't win games. Points do.
That's right. And for everybody who says, well, wins and losses is not a quarterback stat. Wins and losses is not a quarterback stat. No, wins and losses is not a
Mm,
quarterback stat, is something you say when you're not winning games. When you're not
that
winning
that
games.
that
It's
I'm
it's
not disagreeing there.
it's
I'm,
not it's not
I'm
it's
on
not whether
board
you
with
win
you.
or
I'm
lose.
on.
Yeah. It's how you play the game is what the
No.
guy that didn't win the game said.
No, it's whether you win or lose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you're making that kind of money, you should be winning games, or at least helping your team to win games. Wins and losses is not a quarterback stat in the stat sheet. But in baseball, wins and losses, pitchers get wins and losses. And now with the new rules or the newer rules, pitchers don't even come to the plate. So pitchers only play defense, and yet the pitcher gets the wins and loss. They get the win or the loss.
Yep,
They
that's what
have
it is.
they don't put a run on the board. They don't put a run on the board. And a 0-0 game is not a win. And yet pitchers get the wins and losses.
And
So
actually, wins and losses are only a stat in the quarterback stats. I mean, think
but
about it. When you look at what running backs say, catches and carries and yards, catches and yards, or whatever other, but they don't ask them. They don't put them as wins and losses.
they don't put them
Quarter
in quarterbacks either.
receivers, well, yeah, they do.
Mhm. Quarter, wins and losses is not a quarterback stat. Look on the back of a football card.
I
It's
well,
a team stat.
I'm
That's what
talking about what you're seeing now.
yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about from a lot of the outside things that we're seeing now, where they definitely will highlight that quarterback's rate. And it might not even be a stat like an official stat, but they're always going to highlight those wins and losses.
But that again, that's the argument that people will use to try to defend a quarterback like Kirk Cousins who doesn't win. It's like, well, wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat, as though wins and losses don't matter. Of course they do. We're not signing you to two-thirds of the salary cap that this team has because wins and losses don't matter. That's ridiculous. That is
That's
ridiculous.
that's an
It's
amazingly stupid.
it
Yeah,
is.
right, right.
It is an amazingly stupid concept that, oh, the wins and losses don't matter as long as the quarterback puts up stats. Because, like I said, empty calories. I don't care how many yards you pass for between the 1 and the 1 yard line. If you never get
Hmm.
in the end zone, doesn't impress me. As the
You
very,
know,
very, very old song from back in the 90s, I believe it was, or maybe 80s, said, that don't impress me much. Okay, that doesn't impress me much. Yeah, I recently heard that on an oldies station on Sirius. It's like, wow, that song's 20. That song is old enough to drink. So there you have it. There you have it.
All right.
Anyway,
Well, I have a question for you now because now a couple of things went on. We had some pretty ugly wins over the last 2 weeks, and and then now the shape of the North is probably going to change because now, for the first time in the history of the franchise, the Chicago Bears actually decide to fire their coach,
mid-season.
the Kelsey Priest.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's something that they've never done out of all the teams. The Bears have never fired a coach during the season.
no, no. Eberflus had to go. Like we
There's
talked
the
about that
first time
2 days
that
before it happened. We talked about that.
yeah, but it was.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how my man would just didn't call a timeout. And I what I think makes him dumber is hearing him trying to explain his way out of it. He just said, "I messed up and I could not. I messed up, didn't call timeout. Boy, I feel bad about that." But he
Well,
actually tried to rationalize why he didn't call timeout to at least give that kid a shot at a long field goal. Just dumb.
I think it bears noting that we have faced two head coaches who have lost their jobs. Faced and beaten two head coaches who have lost their jobs within 10 days of losing to us. I mean, the Jets fired Robert Saleh and the Bears fired Eberflus. I wonder who's next on that list because there are some coaches that it's one thing to lose. It is one thing to lose. The Bears, the fact that they lost to the Lions, if you got fired because you lost to the top team in your conference, that seems like a knee-jerk reaction and unrealistic. I don't think that the Lions loss even mattered at that point. He was out the door when he lost to us. I'm pretty sure when he lost that game to the Vikings, they'd made their decision.
No, well,
They gave him the courtesy of playing on Thursday.
I read an article actually today about it, and he basically it said that no, it wasn't a knee jerk thing. There are two things that went in motion. Like the president of the club actually hung around longer than he usually did. Win, lose or draw, he hung out and he kept asking players, "Tell me what's going on." Like to tell them what do they think, what's on their mind, what everything else. And then after that, after he talked to pretty much everybody, he just bounced. The morning that ownership and the general managers and all these people had their meeting, it wasn't enough time. Like they went way late and then past Eberflus's presser. So it made for an ugly look, but they, ended up, firing the guy right after he has a press conference that says, "Oh yeah, I'm good till the end of the year."
Hmm. Oh,
I mean,
well,
but the end of the story was that his players, I think his players kind of buried him.
well, they did. They
Yeah.
did. It was like I said when they played us when during that game, right after that game, as a matter of fact, and I think I talked to you the next day and said he's not going to finish the season. You lose the team. When you lose the team's vocal about it. Like I said, owners never get fired. General managers can get fired. Coaches can get fired. Players never get fired. So,
Yep.
the players have decided we're not playing for this guy anymore. They don't go in and clean house and get new players. We get rid of the coach. And
And they just turned over the roster. So nah, they're going to get rid of the leadership, the field leadership.
yeah, and
There's
this is yeah, the surprising thing was Ryan Poles, when he went in there, he decided that he was going to clean house. Obviously he did what the Vikings didn't want, which is why he was one of the two finalists for the GM job, and he didn't get it. He wanted to clean house. So when you bring in when you have the first overall pick and you bring Caleb Williams, I think at that point you should have said, okay, we need a new coach because Eberflus and Caleb Williams didn't seem to make sense together in the same roster, the same franchise. I don't understand how you bring in a marquee quarterback and you don't have anybody to
coach
coach
them.
him. Yeah, that didn't make sense. It was like I don't know. But hey, far be it from me to understand what the Bears do. I'm
Yeah,
just happy. I'm just happy the Vikings
we
aren't too
got
good.
McCown, we got O'Connell. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what that's like.
Yeah.
So
We- We're finally doing things the right way. We're building an organization rather than bringing in players and putting them in and trying to make them fit. As as we
but
did,
this is
we were one player away allegedly when when Case Keenum took us to the NFC Championship game. Again, I don't blame that on Case Keenum. I know a lot of people bury him. Oh, he wasn't ready. The fact that our offensive coordinator spent 2 days interviewing for the Giants job during the week of practice had
did that
something to do
really
with the fact that
happen?
yes, yes, of course, yeah. Did it
You
really
know,
happen? Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It's like
we
he knew
joked
he had
about
that.
that afterwards. I
Exactly.
remember.
He knew he had that job. He's like, okay, well, deuces, guys. I hope it works out well, but this isn't my team anymore. And the fact that the Vikings allowed him to interview that week shocks me. But they said, okay, well, we almost got there with Case. And you know what we're going to do now? We're going to go out and find a quarterback who can get us over the threshold. And we made that mistake twice. We're not going to do that again. I saw today, and I believe it's SI.com, there was an article that the Atlanta Falcons are in love with, and those that it was in quotes, in love with Michael Penix. They are in love with Michael Penix, as they
Mm.
should be, considering the performance of their starting quarterback, who I believe has thrown 6 picks in the last 2 games and no touchdowns. Yeah,
Woo, my man.
yeah. It bears stating, and I'm going to put this out there. He threw 4 interceptions on Sunday. Kirk Cousins threw 4 interceptions.
Huh,
This is a man who is risk averse. He will not throw unless the receiver is open. So imagine if he were, I don't know, say Nick Mullins, a gunslinger who would just throw the ball regardless. Kirk Cousins throws the ball only when he knows he can get it in there, and he threw 4 picks. So is this a lack of ability now? Poor decision making? I mean, because he's not just throwing the ball all over the place. He won't do that. He'll take the sack. He'll fumble before he'll throw a pick. He threw four of them in one game. What's going on?
wow,
What's going
wow,
on?
wow.
And
All
this
right.
week, this week he faces a tougher defense, a defense that knows him. He faces an offense that knows him. He faces a head coach that groomed and trained him.
And he ain't gonna move around like some of these kids. He's not gonna move around like Kyler Murray, or he's not gonna move around like Caleb Williams.
No,
So
no, they won't be.
yeah,
They won't be chasing him. They will not be. They will not be chasing him.
not gonna
So
have to chase him. He can't move. He's like
yeah,
a statue.
yeah. So
They're gonna hit it. My prediction is they're gonna hit him a lot.
yeah.
We we may see Michael Penix. We may see the first of Michael Penix Jr. this week.
My biggest fear is that after two, possibly 3 picks early in the game, they are going to bench him, and the Falcons are going to bench Cousins, and we'll have to face Michael Penix, whom we don't have. Nobody has any real film on him yet. That's
Yep.
my biggest fear.
And
That's my biggest fear.
what did I tell you? The thing about some newbies might be a little hard to defend. So
Mm.
let's imagine one, we have no film at all on him. But the second most important thing, even if we have film, Cat's left-handed. So you have to work your defense. You have to work your defensive secondary schemes backwards.
Mm-hmm. It'll be a challenge. Like I said, if Michael Penix comes in there, and if I'm the Falcons, what it's the perfect storm. With all things being equal, do we have a better chance of winning with a stationary quarterback who arguably is deteriorating, and the Vikings know, or somebody they've never seen who could move around, who might possibly get them? I wouldn't even consider starting Kirk Cousins in this game, but you know, sometimes we have 2024 is the age of, or 2023. It happened also. Russell Wilson. Teams are saying, "I'm sorry, we made a huge, expensive mistake, but we can't keep doing that." Daniel Jones, sorry, we can't keep running you out there. I don't care what we spent. We cannot keep doing this, and that didn't happen before. In the past, it's like, well, we have to play him because we spent this money. I think Kirk Cousins is going to fall in that list. It's like they're going to say $50 million is a lot of money, but if we're going to lose 50 games, if we're going to lose 12, 14 games to try to to make back what we spent on you, no, it's not worth it. It isn't worth
Nope,
it. And not
not
in that
one
division.
bit.
Not in that
Not
division.
one bit.
Not in that division. That division is still up for grabs. Tampa Bay, Carolina,
Man, if they
the
can get
Saints.
something, and if they can get something exciting going, especially from the quarterback position, they have a lot better chance to, actually catching the Buccaneers.
They're in first place in their division, six and
Well, they're
six.
in first
Yeah,
place, but yeah.
they won't stay there. If one more loss, they won't stay there. So
So
their season is in the balance.
yeah,
Their season is hanging in the balance. So
and I did misspeak. So thanks for correcting me there.
no problem. It's like, but because I was surprised that 6 and 6 was leading that division. I was surprised, but you know your quarterback is falling apart. I'm sorry, it's like the Jets. Your quarterback is falling apart. You could keep running him out there. The Jets are doing that now because they want that high draft pick. I understand that. I really don't think the Falcons are considering tanking. It's too late to tank. It's too late to tank. They're 6 and 6. It's if you're going to tank, you right now. I think they're looking at like the 12th or 14th pick overall. So you can't trade up and get anything for that.
Right.
Okay. Now that being said, with the Atlanta Falcons, let's get on with our predictions for this game, score wise, or any predictions for this game.
Pain.
Hmm. Oh, that's for sure. That's definitely coming.
Clubber Lang, baby.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's your prediction?
Hmm.
Pain.
Pain. Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
The Vikings are gonna kind of correct. And actually, like I said, I don't think it's a matter of correcting the ship. I think it's a matter of, hey, we're playing with all these quarterbacks and kind of move around a little bit, kind of manufacture things. So, I mean, with the exception of Jared Goff, most of these cats kind of ran around the ones that beat us.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, only two have beaten us. Only
yeah,
two have
no,
beaten
that's
us.
true.
Yeah.
But Kirk Cousins, well, but I'm talking in terms of games that we won that, well, we look kind of rough, like against the Cardinals, against um, the Titans. And we had a bad game against those guys. And we weren't that tough against, but they won. And I say it, I said it to you. I said, bad teams just lose.
Hmm.
Good teams find way to win even the ugly ones.
Yeah.
And they can do that consistently and win when they have to, right?
Yeah.
And then great teams are teams that don't get caught up in trap games and stuff like that. They just drop their heads and they just win. That's what they do. And the Vikings are a good team. The Vikings are a good team. When I watch these guys and I go, oh wow, man, uh, typically when you have like the one receiver and he's not getting a ton of balls thrown at him, you all of a sudden start seeing stuff in the media, or you hear from someone who has says something from somebody that's from something else. So it came through like four different people who, this guy isn't happy. But
Yep.
no, we're not hearing that. We're not hearing that about Justin Jefferson. This thing is, all right, we got to make, winning is cool. And sure enough, when he knew he needed to get the big balls, and that happened this past week, and it happened last week. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
he made a bunch of big catches. He didn't catch a touchdown, and he didn't catch for a lot of yards, but he made some pretty big first down catches at the end when everyone says, "Oh, we got him now. We got everything pinned down," and he gets a separation. He gets upfield,
Yep.
and but he plays like a professional, and he's gonna blow up with that 15 catch 300-yard day. He's going to get that, but he's just doing his thing. And like I said, he draws a lot of double teams. He figured out on the two losses that we had because they kept trying to force it. Remember, Darnold kept trying to force it to him.
Yeah.
He knows better. I mean, he knows better. All of those guys know better, and we're winning the ugly games, and that makes us a good team.
Well, I was driving back home during the game this week, so and I timed it out so that because I was on a 6 hour drive, so I timed it out so that I'd be able to hear the entire game on the drive. At the beginning of that game, I've got to tell you, but besides being road weary, it was a boring game to listen to. But
I'm
I,
glad you didn't fall
uh,
asleep
yeah,
because it was
it was tough.
awful to watch.
It was tough. It was tough. But I will say this. I don't know if you've ever watched any of these Hallmark movies that they have on the Hallmark channels, but it's they're all if you've seen one, literally if you've seen one, you've seen them all. There's a
Oh yeah.
girl, there's a guy. The girl doesn't know the guy, and then they run into each other in a coffee shop, and they get into an argument. The families can't stand each other. They can't stand each other. Then the flat tire, and then she decides that she needs his help, and they end up getting married at the end. Shock. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This is what Vikings games this year are like to me because as I'm driving and this painful game is going on, and all I can think is, how long before we get to the part where the Vikings take the lead and win the game? Because I know how this is going to end. They're not going to go out there and score four touchdowns and cruise. They won't do that for me. They won't do that. They'll say, oh, okay, we're going to win this game, but we're going to make you listen to the whole thing. It's like,
They'll
I
score four
sometimes think they,
touchdowns and let up.
yeah,
That-
yeah. I think this is like a ratings thing. It's like, oh, nobody's gonna watch us if we're not. I expect at some point that the Minnesota Vikings games are gonna be sponsored by a heart medicine, by blood pressure medication, and
I,
alcohol because it's gotten to the point now where every single Viking game this year I don't. I haven't heard one yet when I thought, well, this game's over. I could stop listening. We're going to lose this. It's a matter. It's gotten literally has gotten to, and then maybe it's cocky, but I've gotten to the point where, okay, so this is going to be another game where we only win by 3 points or 4 points. So when are we going to get that 4 point lead? It's going to be in the fourth quarter. It's going to be in the third quarter. We're going to have to hold on to it. It's formulaic. The guy comes in. The guys come
and
in.
that interception, the one interception too.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's like exactly. It's like okay, so well, the punt pass that they threw, the Kyler Murray threw the punt pass. It's like, well, he's going to do that once a game. I wonder when he's kind of like Jameis Winston. He could have a wheel. When is Jameis Winston going to throw his first three interceptions? It's like Kyler Murray's going to throw at least one punt pass that's going to be picked off. When is he going to do that? There was no point that I felt the Cardinals were going to walk out of there with a W. And maybe that's a bad thing because maybe it's overconfidence, but I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to come in and go home with a W. I don't think that Chicago Bears are going to beat us this year. And I'm wondering when we play the Lions in the final game this year, whether or not they'll be fielding a team or not, because they play if they lose tomorrow, the Lions lose tomorrow, they may not lose another game this year. It may be like the Chiefs. When the Chiefs were undefeated, you don't want to go the entire season undefeated. That's just too much stress. lose a game, lose a meaningless game. Who cares? The Lions, they're on a great winning streak, but do you want to have the burden? Because once you get in the playoffs, you have to win every game. Now, granted, they have to bye, so it's only 2 games. But do you want to go through the rest of the season not losing a game or being afraid to lose a game? You just lose one, say, I'm losing a meaningless game. Right now, they can't because
Yeah, but
they're living.
the other part of that is that's not their culture. Their culture is, just get after it, do it.
Yeah.
And winners, the people with that winning attitude, and this is where I'm just going to break from you just a little bit.
Mm.
They're the ones that are going to say, "Nah, we ain't going to let up," because it's easy to do that. It's
Well, that's
so easy to do that, and when you let up, you may as well say, "Oh, all right, we lost a game," and then all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, we lost another game. Those cats built a culture that they're going to go for it, and if they lose a game along the way, that's cool. But um, Dan Campbell's like, nah.
I, wait a minute. I never said anything about letting up. I didn't say they were let up. I said that I'm sure that if they were to lose a game, it would be more of a relief than being undefeated the rest of the season or the rest of the year until
No,
February.
I think their attitude is let's run the table. They
Well,
don't have to worry about being the second undefeated team. That's something that they don't
no,
have to worry
no,
about.
no.
There've been a couple of teams that have gone well.
Yeah, I could think of
One
one.
loss. Yeah,
I could think of one that went 15-1, didn't
yeah.
make it to the Super Bowl. Didn't make it to the Super. I would trade any of those 15 victories for the NFC Championship title
Oh,
because we
yeah.
that year we didn't need all 15 of those wins. We didn't need them all, and we lost two major defensive cogs during that season that we would have needed in the Super Bowl. It,
Yeah, I
I
just
mean,
can't. I can't say I see it. I understand that you say, well, if we lost to if we lost the game along the way, and I totally understand. You said don't let up, but
no, I didn't say. I
no,
said that.
I
Yeah,
know you said it. I
right.
accept
I
that.
didn't say anything about letting go. Because the year we went 15-1, I was at 12 of those games, and there were games, and I thought, again,
But
not even hindsight.
when do you
Why are
figure
you
out?
playing them? Why are they still on the field? Why are they still on the field? Fourth quarter, why are these guys still on the field? Because that's what
But
you do. You play to the end.
yeah, but again, I say, what are you thinking about? Like, oh, is this the game we lose? Is this the game we lose? And I think the Vikings are doing that now because, man, the way they play up until like the late third or early fourth quarter, it kills me. I'm too old for this, man.
Yes.
But I'm
That's
way too old for this foolishness.
and
But
I'm older than you are. So
and and we're just but the cool thing about us, and I see a lot of I see a lot of big time Viking fans. God bless them, but they're homers to the point that they don't see deficiency, or they see the wrong deficiencies when they see one. But what we kept saying the whole time, yeah, we're just playing with house money right now.
this is house money. This is house money.
We were just wanting to see something good. We got a 10-win football team.
We're 10-2.
Come on, man.
We're 10-2 with a bridge quarterback. We're 10-2 with the bridge quarterback. I don't know why people are talking about, oh, why'd you sign Daniel Jones? You signed Daniel Jones because JJ McCarthy needs a backup. And we've already learned, or we should have, and those of us paying attention have learned, you cannot bring a quarterback in February or March and have him ready in this offense by September. You need more time than that. You need more time. Between February and September, February at training camp and July and August, 2 of those months they're not even practicing. They have the playbook, but they're not practicing. You take a full year and change in 18, 19 months with Daniel Jones. You teach him the offense. He and JJ McCarthy is 5 months further along than he is. He and JJ McCarthy are both learning that playbook. They're coming along together.
Mm-hmm.
We have no reason to even entertain the thought of signing Sam Darnold for 20 million or whatever he's going to get next year. There's no reason to. You need a backup quarterback who can play if JJ
And
McCarthy gets hurt.
incidentally, Sam Darnold knew that was the plan.
He signed on for it. That's why he did sign
That's
the
what he
contract that he
signed
signed.
on for. And
That's
he knew, and it's a mutually advantageous thing because the Vikings are going to get a guy who, San Francisco, gave him gave Quasey the lowdown on like, hey, this guy, we coached him up. He can be that guy that they draft him from college, from Southern Cal. Mm, okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at him again. And the Vikings took him. They knew something when they got him, but they also knew, yeah, pay him a nice little sum so he doesn't want to go jumping around anywhere else. He'll say yes, knowing that it's an audition for that big contract.
yeah. He can.
Because if he didn't win with the tools he has, like like Jefferson and Addison and those guys, man, if he didn't at least win with it, if he finished 9-8, he'd still earn a contract with somebody.
Right.
No different than Kirk Cousins. He had a not so awesome record when Minnesota signed him as a free agent. Oh, because he's a 500
Right.
quarterback.
500 quarterback. He's a 500 quarterback. But the Sam Darnold thing, was having Sam Darnold, who's 27 years old, and Daniel Jones, who's 27 years old, means these guys could sign a contract. Each of them could still play 10 years in the NFL. They could realistically play 10 years in the NFL, 10 more years. It's not like signing a 40-year-old. It's not like signing a 37-year-old. It's 27-year-old kids, 27-year-old quarterbacks. Their careers, it's make or break. You could sign a big contract, a 5-year. Nobody would think twice about signing a 27-year-old to a 5-year contract. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to do that for a 36-year-old. Well, most teams wouldn't.
But then
And
also, a 26-year-old is more inclined to take the coaching from his coach.
well, that's true too. Especially one who has flamed out or they're on their last chance, which Sam Darnold is not stupid. I mean, he's a cerebral guy. He knows this was make or break for him. Just like Daniel Jones, when he got out of New York, he could have gone anywhere. He could have gone to the Raiders, in which case he'd be the starting quarterback. He could have gone to a team that would have put him in. I'm sure at this point he was so, I'm going to say, burned out. Minnesota seemed to be the perfect landing spot for me. You're still getting paid. You get the same money. You're not losing anything. You get to be coached. You get out of the New York New York media market. Sam Darnold could sit and talk to you all day about that. You know, in Minneapolis,
Mm-hmm.
things are not New York. And if he can play, Kevin O'Connell is going to get it out of him. If he can't play, Kevin O'Connell's not going to be able to get it out of him. So.
And that's it, you know.
Yeah, so that's a gamble. People talk about betting on yourself, betting on yourself. In football, they talk about that in the context of, oh, you're playing out the last year of your contract, trusting the free agent market, you're betting on yourself. In this case, betting on yourself is saying, I want to go to the best possible situation for my career. I am 27 years old. I want to stay in the NFL. I want to be a starting quarterback. I want to play. Where can I go? If if Daniel Jones is not on this roster next year, he'll be someplace where they've seen him at some point, and he's on the practice squad now, so there's not going to be a lot of visibility as to whether or not he can play. So
Right.
if he's not on this roster next year as a backup, he will be somewhere as a starting quarterback with some coaching from Kevin O'Connell. But JJ McCarthy is a kid. JJ McCarthy is going to be around for another 4 years. So if he's waiting to push him out of a job, good luck with that. You're not pushing a top 10 pick.
But again, if he's allowed to compete,
Well,
knowing that knowing that he was signed with like a 5 pound weight on his ankles,
mm, mm, yeah.
this is the guy that we
Yeah,
got. But if you outperform him, we'll play it. We'll play you.
yeah. And again, it's funny because you're the third person in the last week and a half that I've heard use that expression, allowed to compete. I think unless you're an idiotic franchise or eh, Mike Zimmer, the way he and that staff handled the Sean Mannion thing, I think anybody you bring onto the roster is there to compete. There's nobody who's going to say, "Well, you're here, but you know, like Kyle Sloter, there's no way we're going to let you try to take the starting job. If you're there and you don't want the starting job, I don't want you on the roster. I don't want you on the roster. If you're there, who is it that said, well, we're here, we want to draft a lot of backup. Oh, Cherry Jones. Jerry Jones drafts backup players. Well, we have to draft backup. No, no, you draft starters, but the starters that you have, the people you have playing ahead of them are better than they are. You don't just go and draft backup players. Backup
Mm,
players shouldn't be on your roster because every player on there is one snap away from being a starter.
that,
So, it's like Ivan Pace didn't expect not to be starting a game. Justin Jefferson didn't start, what, 8 games last season.
right.
So,
So,
that's it. And at that point, we said, okay, next man up. Of course, the next man up was also a first round draft pick. So Jordan Addison was the next man up. But anyway, okay. So before we wrap, we're going to make our predictions, our score predictions for the game.
yeah.
For Kirk Bowl one.
All right. I say 35-14.
Hmm,
Vikings smash them.
okay.
And I think we see Michael Penix tomorrow. Sunday, rather.
Okay. Well, I would say, in light of the fact that we're playing at home, I think this is going to be a Justin Jefferson breakout game, but I'm not going to go as high as 35. I'll say 24-17. I don't think that we'll be without any field goals. But I do think that the Falcons they won't have good field position for most of the game because if Cousins plays, he's not going to be able to move. He's not going to be able to move around. Um,
A lot of tight end action.
yeah, he's going to be checking down a lot, and we are very good against short passes. We get burned in our secondary. So it'll be interesting to see how we handle that. Also, I think the crowd noise is going to be a factor because I think that the fan base in Minnesota, about a third of them will give Cousin, his standing ovation or whatever. Thank you, attaboy, for a guy who was a mercenary that didn't get the job done. But Cousins Crusaders still exist, so they'll be happy to see him. And
Yeah, whatever.
the rest of the fans, I think Sam Darnold, this is my off the cuff prediction. I think Sam Darnold gets a standing ovation when he runs onto the field. I think Sam Darnold gets a standing O in Kirk
That would
Cousins'
be
presence. I honestly think
that would be pretty awesome.
I think
Um,
I think he does. I think he does.
all right. Hey, before we wrap, I have one last thought, and it was just a question in general about you. Did you get a chance to see that hit on Trevor Lawrence this past week?
Yes.
All right, and I just know the minute and everyone says, "Oh, he started early. He slid it." No, because if you're looking at him and you say, "Oh, he's running," all right, he's going to do one of two things. He's running towards out of bounds, or he's gonna drop to his butt.
Mm.
If that happens, if we know that one of those two things is going to happen, there is no way in heck you can tell me I lead with a forearm, knock the dude out, and then say, "Oops, my
Yeah.
bad." Oh,
Yeah.
I can't believe he's a runner. That's right. No, you wouldn't hit a running back like that.
No. No.
A running back wouldn't slide. He'd probably go head
That's true. He
first.
goes in first. Yeah. But still.
But we
Yeah.
know the rule about the quarterback. So the minute he looks like he's off of it, he's jumping off his feet. So he lifts himself off his feet and slides. And that's when he gets smacked in the like.
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah. Was that there's a number of things that for some reason this year have started that causes some injuries, going to cause injuries. This new trend of guys, the Saquon Barkley thing, where I'm going to hurdle over a guy. I'm going to hurdle over him. I've seen 4 different players do that. That's honestly, one guy stands up too quick, and I don't think anybody would be thinking about doing that too many times. It's like you're
Yeah,
hurtling, you're hurtling
right.
over a guy. Yeah. So, but guys are doing that now. They want to make this the ESPN highlight reel, so they're going to hurdle over guys. Another thing I saw for some reason is, well, you can't horse collar a guy, but if you grab the middle of his jersey and yank him forward, that's a tackle. And it's not horse collaring, but I can see how injuries are going to occur because your helmet's on and you're not getting hit in the head, but
right?
it's not doing wonders for your vertebrae. It's not doing wonders for your vertebrae. But
Well,
it's like when you tell guys, well, you can only hit from here to here, and you can't get a guy. I mean, it's a violent sport. It's a violent sport. So
yeah, and I'm all about people not getting hurt and everything, but and it was just and I've seen people like voice their opinions both ways about it, but the truth of the matter was it was a dirty hit.
yeah,
It really
yeah,
was.
yeah. It was. It was. I mean, it was. And I don't know if he'd been fined. I didn't follow the story up, but it
Oh,
might
he was
be too.
suspended three. He was suspended 3 games
Okay, but was there a
because
fine?
apparently he makes hits like that. I'm sure he did.
Okay.
I don't know how much the fine was, but yeah, that was it.
Because I know sometimes the NFL waits a few weeks and then they say, "Oh yeah, you know what? We didn't throw the flag, but here's a fine," or just they've got to do something about that too. It's like, okay, I saw an ejection for what a couple of weeks ago. The guy got thrown out of the game for cursing at a ref. It's like immediate ejection in the first quarter.
Who
It's like,
are you?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and referees should, I know you say this all the time too. Referee should not be like the center of the end of a game.
No, no, you can't. If I understand. And like I said, I don't know what was said, but the flag came out real quick. So unless it's a death threat, you got to grow a thicker skin. Okay, you have to. Give these guys a warning. Even in soccer, to get a red card, whatever. It's like give these guys a warning. You don't just eject the guy in the first quarter because of something he said in the heat of a moment. So, but again, that's as 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 the great Dennis Miller used to say. But this is a very, very, very violent sport, and you've got young kids who are full of emotion. They're getting wound up, and granted, you're some
Isn't it
old
funny?
guy. Yeah, it's just some old guy. You're standing there. They're not thinking, okay, wait, I just went and I called this guy everything but a child of God. But you, sir, I'm going to treat you with great respect and dignity because you are wearing the white, the black and white stripe. That's not the way the brain works, especially not a
Nope,
brain that slams into each other for a
not even
living.
a little bit.
Exactly. So it's again, I'm not getting on my soapbox, but come on, guys. The referees, maybe you keep the handkerchiefs in your pocket a little longer. Maybe you don't show up on TV as much. Try that. I mean, I understand the hockey leagues, they work out and they want to flex and they want everybody to see that, but but the referee should not be throwing for more yards than the quarterbacks. That shouldn't happen. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Well, that being said, I'm gonna wrap this episode. We're gonna brace ourselves for the upcoming weekend of football, where, like I said, once again we've got division games and we've got the
Oh,
rivalry game.
Falcons! Oh, wait a
Yeah,
minute, wrong
yeah,
team.
yeah, wrong team. So, and what we're gonna do is we're going to look forward to seeing what a 500 quarterback who is an expert at winning indoors at 12 noon in Minnesota, can do against Brian Flores, a man who has practiced against him, who knows him very well, who knows all of his weaknesses. We want to see now that he's not wearing the red shirt against this defense, what have they been waiting to do to him?
Hmm.
So, with that
Hmm.
being said, I think so. That wraps another episode.
Uh,
Again, there's a QR code. I'm Razor.
I'm Q.
And we will see you next time. Skol.
Go. All right.